What's up, man?
I'm just watching these YouTubes, but they're pretty cool. I found one that was the longest Little League World Series home runs, MLB Insane Oddities, and some other ones. I'm just trying
Those
to see if
kids,
there's.
some of those little league kids are big. So I don't know about how the birth certificates check out on those. So, hey, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Paradox of Sports, episode 27. Back at it, Jack. You guys got some snow. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we had 2 snow days on Monday and Tuesday, but we were back at it on Wednesday.
Nice. So, what's a snow day look like for Jack?
Just different work that I would be doing in school.
Okay. What kind of play do you guys do? Do you go out and play in the snow? Do you have snowball fights? Like was it the wet snow? Like could you make a good snowball with it, or was it like the dry powdery kind of snow?
It was a little bit of both. That we could make a snowball out of stone, but yeah. I'm just watching this amazing catch. It's ball 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And it was from a kid.
Nice. You said you were watching some of the Little League World Series, like longest home runs. Um, can we both agree some of those kids are too old to be playing Little League? Do you think some of them look a little big?
Maybe. Alright.
I don't think there's any maybes. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure some of them boys are too big. Okay. So your dad, our executive producer, put a picture last night on social media of you scoring or maybe it was your mom, or maybe it was your dad. I don't remember. Scoring the World Series game 6. So, first of all, do you enjoy doing that?
Yep.
Okay, why?
I don't know. It just seems fun.
So which we've talked about it before, you enjoy numbers. Like is it safe to say that you're a numbers guy? Jack is a numbers guy.
Yes.
Okay, so you sort of buy into the analytics of what the Rays have done, where they picked guys off of their on base percentages and the way they coming through and in a clutch in certain positions and stuff like that. So a team that is playing the analytics and playing the numbers like that, and you being a numbers guy, when Cash went out in was it the 5th that he made that pitching change last night?
Um, Dot. I think it.
When the
Or
when
I
the
think it
Rays,
was the sixth.
okay, was it? Yeah, it was the 6th because he went 5 and a third. So, do you make that decision if Jack is managing the Rays? Do you go out and do you pull that guy, or do you, because he's cruising at that point? Do you let him, even though he gave up the hit there and the numbers are telling you to go get him? Do you think you should let your gut instinct take over a little bit, or are you sticking with the numbers and managing that game solely off the numbers?
Um, I'd keep him out there for a little longer. If he allows a few more hits, I may take him out.
So you're more of a let's go ahead and let's play it let's play it by gut. Let's see. You don't pull a guy for giving up a hit there when he's been rolling all night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. So now, are you as much of a Dodgers fan as your dad is?
I think my dad may be a little bit more of a Dodgers fan. I'm still a Dodgers fan, but I think he's more.
Gotcha. So it's not something that you're not as invested with them. You pull for the Rockies majority of the time. You'd say that's your favorite team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that is what it is. What did you think about the World Series kind of as a whole?
It was pretty good. I picked that they would win in 5, but
Yeah, you were close. You missed her by a game. So I said Rays in 6. So I picked the number of games. I just picked the wrong team. You picked the right team, just the wrong. I think what you did was more impressive.
Mm-hmm.
What other sports have you watched this week?
I've watched some football and some and I've watched football and professional wrestling. That's pretty much it.
Did you watch the Bronco game?
Yes, I did.
Do you think is Drew Lock our guy, or do we need to start looking for another quarterback?
If Drew Lock is playing horribly, then I think we're gonna start looking for a new quarterback. And by a new quarterback, I mean called Kaepernick.
You think Denver ought to go for Kaepernick?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't non-political
Non-political
stand.
wise, he's a good.
I just think he's too old. I just don't think he's been in the game long enough. I think he's too old. I think you're seeing some of these guys, even like the problems the Bears are having. I don't know. It's just hard to find a good quarterback in the NFL. Elway sure is having a hard time finding one. So the Chiefs, they got themselves a Texas Tech boy. So they're looking good.
Mm-hmm.
So what sports are you transitioning to now? What are you practicing? What's the practice schedule like?
So Tuesday and Thursday baseball. I'm done with football now.
Gotcha. So when does what is it? Sweatmans? Is that what's that the nickname? Sweatmans?
The what?
When does the basketball? When does that happen? When do we start b-ball?
I don't know. Maybe in a month. I don't know when exactly.
You guys are still kind of locked down a little bit, huh, on basketball because it's an indoor sport?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully here next week some of that clears up. So, all right. Well, you want to go ahead and introduce tonight's guest?
Introducing KKTV sports anchor Taylor Kilgore.
Happy to finally be on this side of the microphone. Let Jack lead this conversation this time.
Well, that's what we do. So as always, we'll go ahead and throw it to our boy Jack to get things started.
What's up, Jack?
So being an athlete, talk about your sports career in high school and how that transitioned into a scholarship at Humboldt State for basketball.
Wow, Jack, you did your research and I am so proud of you. Okay, to start, high school feels like a long time ago, unfortunately, but I played basketball my whole life and I loved it so much. It was definitely my first love. And so I played it a lot and I enjoyed it. And next thing you know, a lot of hard work turns into a scholarship and I got to continue on at the next level. And I loved playing in college. Some of my best friends to this day are teammates that I made playing in college. And I know a lot of college athletes had that experience. So I'm really grateful for it. But then, fast forward through the college career and I'm like, I love sports. What am I going to do next? I'm not going to be in the NBA or WNBA, turns out. So that's when I decided to get into this line of work. And now I get to be around athletes and coaches every day still. So happy girl.
Was Humboldt State close to where you were from? Like, were you able to stay close to home?
It was about 6-7 hours of a drive in California. California, of course, a huge state, so it was really far northern California. So about 6.5-hour drive. It was far enough to experience a new part of the country or the state, and had a lot of fun up there. But I was still close enough where I could hop in the car and head home when we had a break from practice.
A few months ago, we had another former college basketball player on the show. Denver Nuggets analyst Katie Winchie. Who went on a one-on-one? You or Katie?
Oh, I have no clue. I've never seen her play. But we should set that up, huh?
That would be something good to set up, Jack. I'm thinking when this is over and everyone can be in the same room together, you could have a little one-on-one fundraiser, like a game of horse or something.
Well, that's one of my favorites, so let's do it.
Right. So, along with basketball, you are a black belt in Taekwondo. How long have you been practicing martial arts?
Well, I was very young when I started, and I retired when I got to high school. I know that sounds crazy, but I started when I was 5 years old. And my brother and I competed across the country, actually, at a very young age in Taekwondo. And it was a lot of fun. And it was definitely a sport that really set the foundation for me as an athlete and kind of as a person moving forward at such a young age. When you start something like that, you learn a lot. And Taekwondo is very demanding. And it was a lot of fun, very competitive. But once my goal was always to be a black belt. And so once I reached that goal, I was like, okay, let's go one more. And so I went to the 2nd degree black belt, and then it was time to hang it up. But I do credit my time in the martial arts for a lot of my athletic success. And I know my brother does too.
The Taekwondo, I had a buddy doing it growing up, and it seemed like the mental side of that almost paid more dividends than, what you were doing physically. Was that the same with you?
Yes, 100%. And not even just the mental challenge of it all, but it was really the first time in my life where I learned the lesson of, if you want something, you work hard, and you can achieve it. And it was little steps in martial arts where you would do certain things to get a piece of tape on your belt. And each piece of tape meant something. And it seems so silly now, but it meant so much back then because it was such an achievement. And so it's really where I learned the whole concept of, hey, hard work is going to help you succeed. And it did.
Now, did you ever get in a fight and scrap and use any of that for an advantage as you were older?
Oh, absolutely not, because the first lesson in martial arts is, we don't use this to actually fight. So yes, no.
I did like 2 weeks of Taekwondo when I was in 3rd grade for my school.
Yeah. What did you think?
It was pretty fun. I didn't get back to it ever
Hey,
because
it's okay.
it costed like a lot of money.
Oh, really? Well, it's definitely, not for everyone, but I had a great experience.
How many boards
because
can?
running all over the country playing baseball is a lot cheaper, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
Jack,
many-
it sounds like you're pretty busy.
How many boards can you break?
Oh, goodness. Now, I would have no clue, Jack. It's been years since I've even tried. But back then, I was flying through the air, breaking a few.
And your brother is also an athlete, playing quarterback for the CFL's Edmonton Eskimos. What was it like growing up with another athlete in the house?
Well, I like to say that my brother Logan's the real star of the family, but he's the best because he'll say the same thing about me. He was 2 years younger than me. We were very competitive growing up, obviously both being involved in martial arts. We would spar a lot. And, he's the first guy I would be playing horse one-on-one with, 21, you name it, all the blacktop games from a very young age. I try and run routes for him when we were younger, but man, that kid has had a cannon since he was about 5 years old. So I learned pretty quickly I wasn't the right receiver for him, but he's still playing, which is amazing. And it's kind of the dream, right? He told me at a very young age that he's going to be a professional quarterback, and watching him do what he loves and get paid for it. And still watching him compete is like probably one of my favorite things to do.
So, what got you into journalism, specifically sports journalism?
Yes. Well, going back to college, when I realized my basketball career would be ending in college, which I was happy to move on. It was okay, but I was kind of looking for the next thing. And all I knew is I wanted to be around sports. And I come from a family of coaches. My dad's a coach. My husband now is a coach. My brother, when he's done playing, wants to be a coach. But really, I just never thought I had the coaching gene. I think it takes a lot of patience and a lot of perspective that I just didn't think I'd be that good at it. So then I was starting to think, and I'm going, okay, what should I do next? And I was actually watching a football game with my grandpa one year. I think it was my junior year. And he points at the TV, and there was a sideline reporter, and he goes, Taylor, that's what you need to be doing. And so the next semester I went and we had a TV show on campus that was just covering our college's sports. And so I had been interviewed a few times on it. And so I went to the anchor of the show and I said, can you teach me what you're doing? This is what I want to do. And sure enough, he had me on as his co-host, and the rest is history.
So what are some of the favorite sports events you've covered throughout your career?
Oh, that's a good question, Jack. Some of my favorites, I don't really have to think about this. You know, events are one thing, because I found that every time I'm at a game, whether it's high school, college, professional, whatever it is, you always get so excited before. You know, that's the energy that I love, is that pregame moment when the teams run out on the field, the national anthems played, you hear the roar of the crowd. I mean, I can't even point to a specific game, but that's my favorite part of the job, are those moments. But really, there's also some stories that just stick with you forever. And it's not a big game atmosphere, but it's really the sentiment and the story behind the interview that sticks with you. And I've been privileged enough to do a lot of those, especially, I mean, Jack, when we met a few months ago and we got to talk about this strange time with the coronavirus pandemic going on, and the fact that you turned this into a weekly sports show at your age, I was so inspired by you. I can think of many other athletes. There was a Paralympian named Billy Lister that I interviewed a few years ago, who he had a stroke, and he was a big time athlete, had a stroke, and found his way back to athletics through the Paralympics. And just his story, it's so inspiring. You know, you have those conversations, and that's really what it's all about. Is I think sports are the best reality TV show that exists, because you never know what's going to happen, and it's real, and it's the one thing that unites all of us. So just being around sports every day, that's my favorite.
You talked about the preparation, like when you go into the anticipation of something, there's always, I mean, you plan the event, you cover the event, or you're at the event, and then you're going to write and film or do what you want after. There's always things that are going to come up and stuff that catches you off guard. Is the preparedness for, you know, being prepared for when you go to this stuff, so if something does happen, and whether it runs late and you're up on a deadline and stuff, is the being prepared prior to the being on camera is the cool part, but
Right.
there's a lot that happens prior to sitting down and that happening to make sure that is smooth.
100%. I always say that I'm like a duck on a pond. You know, you see a duck and they're just chilling, they're having a good time, right? But underneath, the legs are moving a mile a minute. Because in TV, there's always a million other things going on, especially when you're covering sports, because, you know, we're dealing with deadlines that happen the second before you go out, or it might happen while you're already on TV, because games are going to finish when they finish, right? And yes, I think preparation wise, whether you're covering a story or a game, just the knowledge never stops. You got to know a lot about a lot, because we cover everything. We cover everything that a Colorado sports fan cares about. You know, it's not just about what's happening down the street here in Colorado Springs. It's, you know, we are blessed because we have a lot of fun teams that people care a lot about in this state. And so you got to know a lot about a lot. And it's a lot to keep up with. That's why you have to love it, or you would just not last a day.
So what do you think about covering sports in Southern Colorado compared to Nashville, California, and Nebraska?
Great question, Jack, because I was curious going into it. You know, what are sports fans like across this country? And lucky for me, I've got to see a lot of them over the years. Growing up in California, I love my hometown, but the reality is California is not known for its hardcore fan bases, because there's so much going on, right? There's so many teams, there's so many different activities going on, and the beach, the snow, the mountains, Hollywood, whatever. There's just a lot of distractions. So there's not the hardcore fan bases like you do see, say, when I lived in Tennessee. I As an intern, I covered the SEC, which was a great welcome to college football. And then when I moved to Nebraska, covering the Big Ten, I mean, it's pretty incredible. I would say in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, those sports fans are pretty incredible, pretty loyal. And seeing Memorial Stadium on a Husker Saturday game day it'll take your breath away. So that was pretty crazy. But I do love our Colorado sports fans. I love being in Denver at a time when the Nuggets and the Avalanche are so impressive and so young and so exciting to watch. I will say I'm still waiting for a really dominant Broncos season, and I'm patient, but not really. Just like Broncos country, I'm hoping it happens sooner rather than later. But I do love Colorado sports fans because we got some good shows in town, and people show up. People are hardcore.
What is it like now being able to cover sports during the pandemic?
Ooh, great question. It has been strange. You know, I get the question all the time, especially when there were no games going on, when everyone was kind of at a standstill. Everyone would ask me, Taylor, you cover sports. What are you talking about? And oddly enough, there was a lot to talk about every night because whether it was the NBA, the NHL that had paused their seasons, the NFL that people were kind of, you know, a few months down the road, we're going to have the NFL season. How are they going to handle this? March Madness, which is one of my favorite things of all time, canceled. It was just crazy. But every day there was updates, you know, and they were figuring it out. And we were just relaying those facts on to the people at home because people did want to know, are the Avalanche going to be able to finish this season? If so, what's it going to be like? And so we would just stay on top of it. And oddly enough, there was always something to talk about and quite a bit of information to get out there to all of the Colorado sports fans. So now sorry.
That night when the NBA, when they sent the guys home from Oklahoma City. So I remember it was a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
My wife does the nursery at church on Wednesday nights.
Okay.
So I'm sitting on the couch. She leaves. I start seeing everything on Twitter. So that had to have been about the time you guys were going to go on.
Yes.
So what was that 45 minutes to an hour like? Because it was crazy. When she came home, I told her she cannot imagine how much the world changed in the 2 hours she was gone.
It was one of the strangest things because I had that game dialed up in our sports office here at KKTV before our early show. And I'm watching it and I'm going, wait, what's happening? And the Nuggets were going to play that night, right? But they hadn't been on the floor just yet. And so then the question became, are the Nuggets going to play? Or they were at halftime? I can't remember. Were they at halftime at that point?
I really don't remember. I just remember them pulling.
Yes.
Who was in Oklahoma? It was Utah, wasn't it?
Jazz. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
they pulled the Jazz off the floor.
Because Rudy Gobert was the one that had the
Yep.
positive test. And so at this point, we didn't know anything about all of this. And I think that was the moment that really changed everything for everyone because, you know, as I talked about sports being so great because it's our escape from everything, it brings us all together. Well, the coronavirus clearly had an impact all of a sudden on the NBA, and then everything just shut down. And yes, that was a wild moment, but we had it dialed up in our sports office. And I said, guys, come back here, you know, to my colleagues here being like, are you seeing what's happening? And everyone was circled around watching it go down live. And then we were wondering if the Nuggets were going to finish their game because I believe it was halftime. Maybe it was halftime when the NBA had announced that they were pressing pause on the season. And then they continued the game. Whatever it was, that was a wild day I will never forget. And then the following Thursday was absolute craziness around here. And we did nonstop live sports coverage because everything was happening by the minute with the March Madness stuff. That was a big thing because, and then we had the state basketball tournament was going on in Denver that weekend. There was just, it affected every single level, but it was a wild ride. And I've never seen anything like that in sports.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I got my sister coaches, brother-in-law coaches, dad coached, all that. They were in, I want to say they were in Loveland is where the small schools were.
Yes.
And then they went Friday and then they just sent everybody home. I think there were some of the, I want to say maybe it was down the Southeast Colorado. I want to say maybe the Kit Carson girls, it might've been halftime of their game. And I don't even know if
that's
he
how
finished.
fast it all happened.
Yeah.
That's how fast it all happened. We had my weekend anchor, Richie Cozzolino, was up in Denver covering a game. And so the morning games went off. They were good. And then by the time that the afternoon came, or early evening, it was like, nope, we're done. That's it. Go home. And it's just hard because, teams work so hard to get to that point, and then to stop it right then, it was brutal for those athletes. I know it. And we did a lot of interviews with people afterwards, but it's just been a wild ride these last few months. That's for sure.
And you said your husband coaches Regis, correct?
Yes, at Regis University.
So where were they in a tournament then, or were they done, or?
They were done. So they're a Division II school. So
Yep.
it was, I want to say the week before, I was in Las Vegas for their second round playoff game. And they unfortunately lost, and that was the end of their season. But then a couple of days later, it really didn't matter because they had to cancel the rest of the tournament.
Was that a deal where he would have been out recruiting? Like, would he have been out recruiting and had to come home, or how did that affect the coaching side there?
Really, for him at that point, they were in that sweet spot where they get about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks after their last game of the season to kind of just calm down, get away from the court for a couple days. And
they're on vacation. They get some vacation.
Yeah, so they were kind of in that vacation spot, and then, but normally
you were working your butt off because everything was crumbling.
Right,
yeah, okay,
right.
yeah.
And, yeah, but then, they only take, like I said, less than 2 weeks off, and then it's right back with workouts, getting ready for the next year. And they didn't do any of that. So they had to cancel those. So he was working from home for months. And let me tell you, for a basketball coach, not being around his players, brutal.
So what is a day like in the world of Taylor Kilgore? Are you covering more high school or pro sports these days?
It depends on the day, Jack, but great question. I'll walk you through my day today, and I'll show you how different it's going to be tomorrow. Today, I woke up, I got a workout in, had some breakfast, and then jumped on some Zoom calls with Air Force football. I'm sure you're aware they are starting Mountain West play this weekend. So I did that from home, interviewed Coach Calhoun and a couple players. And then I got ready for work, headed to the studio, got ready for my 5:30 show, and then jumped on a call with you, Jack. And then tomorrow, we're going to be up at the Broncos practice at the UC Health Training Center in Denver. So we'll be covering on Wednesdays is when we get to hear from quarterback. That means we'll be talking to Drew Lock and covering their practice and the upcoming game against the Chiefs. That'll be all day tomorrow. And then fast forward to Friday, and high school football really takes the front seat for us. So we'll be running around town, going to a bunch of high school football games down here in Southern Colorado. And then Saturday, I'm going to take a little weekend. Sunday, I'll be at the Broncos game.
Nice. Okay, Jack has one more loaded up. So my last one, you had mentioned the SEC, which is my favorite sporting events to watch is SEC football. That's my personal favorites. My mom is from Grand Island, Nebraska, so I grew up Go Big Red.
Yes.
But so you have been to some pretty badass football environments.
Yes.
Where does an Air Force game rank in that? For I've been fortunate enough to been there, like when they've played the other service academies or just regular games. But in the environment you've been in, how's that Air Force Academy home game?
So it's a really good question. And here's what I'll say. Air Force, the pageantry pregame and seeing the cadets and how they run to their seats and seeing the Falcons and the flyovers and all the pregame stuff, there is nothing like it. Whether Navy's in town, Army's in town, whatever it is, I love covering those games. They're very impressive. But I will say that, I've been at a Mississippi State home game with the Cowbells. I've been at Memorial Stadium with the Husker Red. I mean, those are just next level. But they got a lot more numbers, I've been at, it was a Neyland Stadium, Tennessee Volunteers. That one's pretty impressive. I've been on the field there, and their stadium just seems to go straight up. I don't know what that is, but it's pretty loud when you're on that field. So yeah, I would say Air Force is different. It's the pageantry that's really impressive. But and those games are a lot of fun, but they don't compare to a SEC game.
Okay, Jack, last one.
What is your greatest moment in sports journalism ever?
Oh, my greatest moment. My greatest moment. Oh my goodness. I don't even know how I would measure that because I've accepted some awards for some of my work, which has been a really proud moment to kind of, you don't really think when you're done being an athlete, you don't really think about winning awards again. So when I won my first TV award, that was really exciting for me. But I would say my greatest moment, honestly, would be my first sportscast years ago, just getting through it. I have never been so nervous for something in my entire life. I remember I didn't eat the entire day, and that is just not something that I do. That's not how I respond to stress. So that was a whole different ball game for me. And I remember calling my parents after, and I was in tears because I got through it, and it was so great. And I felt like I was on ESPN, breaking down the most important Super Bowl of our lifetime. And instead, it was a 3-minute sportscast that probably no one was watching, but it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. And it was the best because I was like, okay, I've done it. Now I can do it again.
Okay, you mentioned that I got to ask because I got my oldest daughter, she gets married next summer. So 10 minutes before your first broadcast or 10 minutes before your wedding, which were you more nervous for?
Oh, broadcast, 100%. 10 minutes before the wedding was just, it was so exciting. It was so fun. I was so pumped. But it was a totally different kind of nervous. That I was just so confident, so ready. And it's emotional in a different way, right? Because you think of that moment your whole life and you're there with your dad and it's just intense. And you're surrounded by all the people you love. But the wedding, amazing. But yes, broadcast, definitely way more nervous.
Awesome. Well, Taylor, thank you for taking some time. I know you're busy and you got a lot going on. So
always got time for you guys. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Again, we want to thank Taylor for taking some time. She basically sat down with us during her dinner break and visited with us. She knows her sports. She likes Jack. So that was awesome of her to sit down, take some time out our evening to chat. So, Jack, this weekend, what good sports we got to look forward to this weekend?
We got to look forward to. Wait, who are the Broncos playing?
I don't know. I have no idea. Let's just look real fast. Let's pull her up here. Go to the CBS Sports. Let's go to the
upcoming game.
Ooh. Bills Patriots. That's a big one.
We gotta see Chargers. We're taking.
Oh yeah, we played it. Man, what do you think about that? Broncos Chargers. Denver is at home and an underdog. You get Denver plus 3.5.
I'd still take the Chargers if it's like a POS pick'em, but here I would.
Yeah.
But here I would maybe take the Dodgers in an upset, maybe like an overtime thing.
Okay, so you think the Chargers are going to get the Broncos in overtime? Or you think the Broncos get them?
Yeah, it may seem unlikely, but because the Broncos have won 5 of their last 6 meetings against the Chargers.
Yeah, but they've had Phillip Rivers as their quarterback too now. Now they got Herbert, who, I mean, just watching him the last couple of weeks, he's a stud. He's got a cannon. So San Diego's tough.
We're actually
Dude, there's some good games, man. We got the Bills, Patriots. We got the where did it just go? I just saw it. I liked it. Oh, Ravens, Steelers. That's an 11 o'clock game too on Sunday. They didn't flex that or nothing. That's just get up and get to church and get home and get the game on. So that'll be a good one.
Mhm.
What do you think there? Steelers at the Ravens. Ravens at home minus 3.5.
Wait, what was it?
It's the Steelers at the Ravens. So the Ravens are home, but they're minus 3.5. So you get Pittsburgh on the road plus 3.5.
I would take the. This is tough. I'm gonna take
That's a tough one, huh?
Ravens
I think the
on the pick'em, and in this game it's gone Ravens by field goal.
Okay, Ravens by a field goal, so you're taking Pittsburgh then. So
Gonna
you're
be
laying
home.
if you're gonna lay if you're gonna lay 3.5, you got to take Pittsburgh then if you think Ravens win by a field goal.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. You're going on your pick 'em.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been getting massacred on my gambling, so we're already down. Do you know what president is on the $100 bill?
Yes. Or it's not a president. It's Benjamin Franklin.
Ah, good job. Okay, good job. Yeah, so I am down a Benjamin Franklin so far in my gambling career. So we're gonna win that back this weekend. That's the goal. Go big or go home. So we'll do a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm. What?
We'll get our picks in. What's that?
Were you gonna tell me more riddles? I mean, you told me that one
No.
riddle.
Do you want a riddle? I will make that for next week. I will do that each week. Let me find a good one. I will find a good riddle and I'll have one for you. I don't know what happened. I just lost your audio. Oh yeah, there you go. You were on mute. Oh, you hit spacebar, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. All right, cool. Well, is there anything else we got to cover this week?
No. Riddles.com has some. I found that.
Okay, well, I got to find somewhere else in because you'll go and read every riddle on there this week, so you know the answer. Yes, you will. So you're competitive and you don't like to lose. So I'll go to a secret riddle website and I'll find some, and then we'll do some riddles.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Cool. Right on, dude. We'll talk at you next week.
Okay.
Later.
Later.